YouTube Ozzico in the Goat House is back just after Sunday's games of NFL Week 3, and here we are at Overreaction Monday. A lot of statements sent in by you guys, some good ones I might add this week, and I'm going to decide if these are overreactions, facts, fair, and we'll take a look at quite a few of these, some real good ones sent in. Tonight, Monday Night Football, Chiefs, Ravens, the big one. Me live tweeting throughout this entire game, giving you my takeaways, my thoughts. You're going to want to follow that Twitter. Always tweeting during live games here and giving you my thoughts on what's going around in the NFL and giving you channel updates and what's to come. So follow that Twitter, link in the description and comments. We have an Instagram, Patreon, podcast, plenty more. Link down below for those as well. Before we get started with Overreaction Monday, please subscribe. We got full coverage here, but we got a Patreon as well. Extra content on that Patreon, link down below. Junior score predictions. My locks of the week. Been doing pretty well on those. We got college football score predictions, updated playoff predictions. We'll start in the near future, and then we'll update those every single week once we start them. Bonus content, Discord access, much more going on that Patreon. We got you covered. But to the first one here, sent in by Meaningless. The Dolphins' offensive line might be top 10 in the league right now. This is a good one because Dolphins are fresh off a pretty darn good performance in general, but mainly their offensive line. And they've been playing pretty darn good throughout this season as well, which they're you see the Bengals. You see teams like the Bengals and the Vikings at the very bottom where they're expected to be. But we kind of pretty much the whole planet kind of expected the Dolphins to be down there. So they're playing better than expected. They are impressive. So definitely impressive. That I think that's a fact. Even though it's if someone's impressive to you or not, maybe it's opinion. But I'm gonna say this is an overreaction actually because they are playing pretty well. Again, they are impressive, but it's too early to say this. I've talked about in the offs. I talk about it every year. Offensive lines kind of don't really show their true identity early in years. Still, they've been impressive. Teams like the Bengals and Vikings have not been. So some bad ones have shown their true identity early. But, sometimes it takes some time for some reason for offensive lines. Maybe it's getting worn out as the season goes on. The true good ones stay consistent. The bad ones start to fall off. Another thing is you take a look at who the Miami Dolphins played. They played the Patriots. They played the Bills. And they played the Jaguars. For the Patriots, the pass rush just isn't the same. Guys opting out, and they lost guys like Van Noy, or the Dolphins know, and Jamie Collins, guys that get pass rush for sure. So the Patriots really don't have the pass rush. They have a good secondary. The Bills, really good defense, but they are kind of lacking in terms of the sack department. So maybe not the biggest challenge, even though it's a good defense. And then the Jaguars have two pretty good edge rushers. Chase Young is a raw prospect, though. So the focus really was only on Josh Allen, and the interior pressure is an absolute mess for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So very impressive, but I think it would be an overreaction to call them top 10 right now here only after 3 games. But we'll see. They're definitely heading in the right direction. It's a very young group, but it's definitely a team of the future in general. Another Dolphins one here from Trevor. The Dolphins are an 8-8 team. We're going to say he's not really predicting them to go 8-8 here after looking at this. He's kind of saying an average team. I kind of don't like when people send me like end of the year predictions, like they're being too specific, but this is a good one here. The Dolphins are an average team, we'll call it. Average team that was being slept on because they played 2 playoff teams to start the year. So again, talking about the Dolphins again, they played the Patriots and they played the Bills. 2 good teams, and now they beat up on the Jags pretty good there. And so the Dolphins are an average team and that we're just being slept on. Yeah, this is a good one here. I'm going to say if you and he doesn't necessarily think this is just kind of a statement, you can send in ones that you think are true, but people may think are overreactions, or you can send in what you're hearing other people say, which are overreactions. I'm going to say it's an overreaction. They're not far off the average category. They're actually not too far off because Brian Flores, I think, is a really good defensive mind. The game plan was great against the Jags. They got some good pieces. They got much better in the offseason, much better. Regardless of what their record says at the end of the year, let's say their record ends up being worse than it was last year, I still think they got better. It's just a different year. But I do think it's an overreaction because, just off the Jags game, I still don't think there's enough. It's a young team. It's kind of scattered all over the place. I think the offensive line won't continue to play as great. They don't have too much of a running game. Fitzpatrick will be hot and cold. He has capabilities of turning the ball over, especially when he's under pressure. Defense, I think same thing. They got better. They got some good pieces, but it's going to be hot and cold. They're not going to be able to get pressure on everyone. They got good pressure on the Jaguars. So I think it'd be an overreaction to call them average, but they might not be too far off that. That is a good one, though, because I can see people. You definitely got to be happy, impressed with the win over the Jags, but maybe I don't think anybody's really overreacting out there, in terms of the fan base, but I can see people getting maybe a little too excited, but it was an impressive win. So that was a good one here. From Cardiac Cowboys season, Mike McCarthy isn't an upgrade from Jason Garrett. It's another good one because he's had some, mistakes, I guess, some moments you'd like back, but I definitely think this is an overreaction because I do think he's better. Maybe that's an assumption because I guess we got to see more. But their offense is just fine. They're moving the ball. They got some key injuries on the offensive line. So Dak's getting pressured more than he ever has, really ever. And they're still putting up the points that I think based on the record. This is why this is a good one because I think maybe not everybody watches every game. A lot of people watch. A lot of people here probably watch a lot of football and they know their stuff. But maybe you couldn't catch the Cowboys game and you just look at their record and they're 1-2. Only one win against the Falcons and a comeback, very close to being 0-3, actually, the Cowboys. So you see 1-2, and you're like, oh, man, maybe McCarthy isn't it. Maybe he's not an upgrade. Maybe the Cowboys aren't good. But they played some really good teams, and they've been just fine on offense. Defense is kind of a problem in terms of the offense. The offensive line's kind of a problem. Zeke couldn't really get things going against the Seahawks. He did play the Seahawks. I think that would be an overreaction. That is another good one, though. A lot of these that you guys sent in are really good this week. And if I didn't use yours, I apologize. Trying to just grab some of them here. A lot of people playing along. I appreciate you. I don't like people to get too specific or predict the long, way in the future too much here. But I don't really like to use those ones. But they aren't bad takes, obviously. Stephen Paul. Big Ben is a better quarterback without Antonio Brown. It's a good one because, we're through 3 weeks here. And the kind of the talk is Roethlisberger better right now because you look at the numbers, mainly the passer rating, and it's only 3 games, but he's actually looked pretty darn good. I think the first half of the Giants game, he had to kind of get in his groove again, and he kind of has done that. So since then, he's been pretty good. He's been very smart, and that's why he's a Hall of Fame quarterback because he's a smart quarterback, and he should be. I mean, he's been around for some time, won some games, so seen a lot of stuff. So, smart quarterback. Ben is a better quarterback without AB. This is a good one. And I do this on the spot while I'm recording. None of this is edited. I don't decide beforehand. I want to kind of get stumped on some of these and not know what to do. I want them to be that good, and this is a pretty good one. I don't know what to do with this one. You can kind of argue both sides because is Big Ben better now than he was in his younger days or even like a few years ago? Statistically, it looks like, but I don't think he's better. He probably had more talent then. So that would make this an overreaction. But we're talking about with a target, with Antonio Brown. When he had Antonio Brown versus what he's got now, there actually might be more talent out there. You don't have Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is not out there. He was a very talented receiver. But there might be more talent, and that can result in Big Ben being better. So I'm gonna say fair just for that. Again, talent-wise, he probably was more talented, had more talent in him, capable of what he could put on the field, I guess, when he was younger. But sometimes some really good, talented players can help guys look a little better than they are, and that could be the case here. I think Juju's more of in his prime. Deontay Johnson's fantastic, only in his second year. Chase Claypool is a beast for a rookie. James Washington's a threat. James Conner. I mean, we're throwing Anthony McFarland in the mix, too. I think he's pretty good. And they have Benny Snell as well, Ebron, McDonald. I mean, they got a collection of guys there. So maybe the pass protection hasn't been better than it has been. So that's credit to Big Ben, how he's playing when has been under pressure. Ben has been under pressure, at some points, but that's a pretty good one. That one kind of stumped me a little bit. Cam, Colts defense is the best in the NFL. It's another great one because right now, statistically and what has gone on, on the field, it looks like the Colts might have the best defense in the NFL. We are only through 3 weeks. Yeah, things change drastically after 3 weeks, so this is a good one. And that's why I think it's a pretty easy one to say overreaction. They have been impressive. They've been playing very good. They could be better than we all thought, including myself. But you look at they played the Vikings. The Vikings were really sloppy. They are sloppy right now. They turned the ball over a bunch. In the Jets. The Colts playmakers have made pretty good plays. A good chunk between the Vikings and the Jets game. A good chunk has been, almost on the level of gifts, But yeah, again, look at who they play. Darnold kind of give him the ball. Xavier Rhodes played lights out in that game. He's been playing very well. Play lights out in the Jets game. But I'm going to say an overreaction because it's just not the best in the NFL. It's just not. And, if you remember my talk about the Colts before the season, I was saying, I expect them to play like a top-tier defense some weeks, and then some weeks like maybe a bottom-tier defense. So it's still kind of all going to plan here. You look at the way the schedule, maybe we didn't expect that against the Vikings, but with their offensive line, I guess potentially expected or predicted. And then the Jets, games like that, they're going to look top tier because the studs that they have, because those playmakers they have. And there's some weeks where they really won't look like the ones we have been seeing. So I think that's still, it's kind of to be determined still. A lot of football left. I don't think they're the best defensive football. I think 100% a team like the Steelers, team like the Ravens, definitely better. We can name some other ones. I'm really a big fan of the Buccaneers defense too right now. But they've looked good. Definitely impressive. Next, we got from Josh Lopez, Eagles chose the wrong QB. Another one that's kind of a hot topic now because we're through 3 weeks. The Eagles don't have a win. This was supposed to, and the Wentz has been statistically at the bottom, maybe the worst quarterback through 2 weeks. Then we're heading into this Bengals game week 3, and this is a perfect matchup for Wentz. This is where he gets his confidence back. This is where he gets his groove going, and he, again, didn't play his game. He played poorly, actually. Footwork looks different. Things just look different. And just throwing the wrong team the ball, really. Turnovers being a problem and not being able to hit his receivers unless they're just wide open for the most part. So it's not good. It's definitely the talk around the league right now is what's going on with Wentz. This was kind of a topic too when they kind of, got rid of or let Foles go, sign with the Jaguars, and then they chose Wentz. So Eagles chose the wrong QB. This is a really good one. I can argue different things here. I can argue different things. Because I can call this overlooked because I think people for so long kind of just thought, Wentz was 100% the right choice. Foles kind of got lucky in the Super Bowl run. You don't get lucky in the Super Bowl run, ladies and gentlemen, especially when you get to the Super Bowl. he played lights out, so people might have overlooked this. But I can also this is a crazy one. It's a really good one because I also can call it overreaction because you see the difference in age and potential on Foles versus Wentz, and you got it. Wentz is probably, if you have to choose, that guy's the guy you got to go with. So you can talk about two sides here. The way he's playing now. If I had to make a final decision, I would definitely say overreaction still because Foles might have been better at the time, really, but long-term future, you made the right choice. And then it was the right choice, really, and you look at the money situation. The Eagles are going to be in, honestly, cap space hell for some time here, and they would just, Foles was the guy that they were going to have to pay, as well. So that definitely would not have been great there, obviously, but that is a good one, and it's definitely something that's a lot of people are talking about right now. Next, we got from Danny. Daniel Jones is not the answer at quarterback. So Danny talking about Danny Dimes here. Daniel Jones is not the answer at quarterback, and the Giants should be looking forward to the draft. This is another good one, too. Another one that's probably going to stump me here. Because Daniel Jones, you look at, I wasn't in love with the pick. There was really nothing that screamed, first-round quarterback, this is going to be a starting. And when you're drafting a quarterback that high, you're not really just – this guy's a starting quarterback. That's not really what you're looking for. You're looking for more than that, So that was the tough part pre-draft. Last year, he honestly impressed me. It wasn't like a great impression. It was impressive because he was better than expected, I guess, the way he was throwing the ball mainly downfield. I think he's pretty patient at times, sometimes too patient. The turnovers were a problem, mainly fumbling last year, and they came at bad times. So then you fast forward to this year. First half of the Steelers game, he actually looked pretty good. Maybe they weren't getting the touchdowns, but he looked pretty good. I was actually impressed because better than expected, but then kind of went back to normal after that first half of the Steelers game, and up to this point, they just played the Niners yesterday here in week 3. Couldn't really get things going, so kind of back to normal. I've always been on board. I've been talking a lot about it lately. Quarterbacks really don't change. Quarterbacks can improve. Young quarterbacks definitely can improve. They have their traits. They can improve those traits, those abilities a little bit, after 1 year of playing, maybe after 2 years of playing. You don't see a whole bunch of improvement after that. Daniel Jones is in that stage where he can improve based on what I just said. But what I mean where quarterbacks just don't really change, kind of go back to the traits. Quarterbacks just don't add traits. The traits don't appear. Traits don't really disappear. Those things don't change. It's going to be very hard for you to ever find. I don't know if there's ever been one in NFL history that has added, traits or quarterback abilities. Maybe they've improved them, they tweaked them, but nothing's ever been added. So that's what I mean by quarterbacks don't really change. So I don't know if we're going to get that much change from Daniel Jones. I do think he can improve a little bit. But the things he needs to improve on is just decision making, and those things, again, they don't really change too much. So this is a very tough one. It's bold of me. Maybe I'm gonna call it an overreaction because it's a really good one. Because I think he needs more time. He didn't even start from week 1 last year, and I definitely don't think the Giants are looking forward to the draft in terms of quarterback. If they get the first pick, I think you do take Trevor Lawrence, but that really has nothing to do with Daniel Jones. It just has to do something with Trevor Lawrence is that good, ladies and gentlemen. But it's tough, and like I said, quarterbacks don't change a whole bunch. They don't add traits. There is some decision-making things I think he can clean up. You look at that pick, I think it was forced by Bud Dupree. That was the big one in the Steelers game. If they scored there, which they were about to, they were moving the ball very well, they might have won that game. You can look at that score all you want and say, no way. The ending score doesn't tell you what happened there. And I think that it's just a matter of throwing the ball away earlier. I think he tried to just earlier, and I think you can fix that. I am a little hesitant to say that he'll fix these things, he'll improve that much, because I usually trust my judgment pre-draft and my judgment on the quarterback when he's in the NFL, because, again, they don't change a whole bunch. So I'm a little hesitant to think he'll actually change or improve a bunch. But it is a little too early. It is a little too early, and they won't be looking forward to a quarterback in the draft, the Giants, that is. So, in a way, you kind of got to predict there a little bit. So I'm going to say overreaction, but, again, another great one. Falcons from Danny. Was it Danny again? It's the same Danny? Oh, he's on fire. The Falcons need to start fresh with Dan Quinn or Matt Ryan. The Falcons need to start fresh without Dan Quinn or Matt Ryan. Is it and Matt Ryan? Yeah, I guess Dan Quinn and both of them. Danny is bringing the dimes today. It's a really good one, and I already know what I'm doing with this one. Well, first, Dan Quinn, if this is only Dan Quinn, it would be a fact, and everyone would think it's really not an overreaction, probably, because I think they're blowing comebacks. Hasn't really been the answer. Super Bowl run was great. They had a ridiculous talent, though. They blew that one anyway, so everyone would agree Dan Quinn, pretty much everybody, needs to go. But you throw in Matt Ryan in there, Dan Quinn and Matt Ryan, and that makes it very, very tough. But I got an easy answer for you here, for me. I think it's overlooked. I think people are overlooking this and thinking, Matt Ryan, no, he's a very good quarterback. They don't need a fresh start without him. It's just Dan Quinn. And I do think, I'm not ready to just get rid of him. I'm not saying that. I'm not ready to just get rid of Matt Ryan or just call off Matt Ryan. Mainly I do want them to get rid of Quinn probably right now. But I like this one. I'm going to say overlooked because you look at where the Falcons are at, and I've kind of been talking about this for some time. You look at where the Falcons are at, and even though they're 0-3, they got an explosive offense. It's a very good offense. Julio was out the last game. They got a really good offense that can compete. But can they win anything this year? Can they win anything? and by that I mean like playoff games. And what's really the one and only goal is win a Super Bowl. Let's be honest here. They can't do that because they would have to have by far the best offense, the most dominant offense, given what's on the coaching staff and what's on defense there. And they're not the best offense in football. There's other offenses that I trust more and that I just plain simple think are better, and those teams have better defenses as well. So I think the Falcons really have no shot to get to that end goal, that end game, which everybody has the same thing as win the Super Bowl, pretty much. So Matt Ryan, and he's not getting any better. You could start to see the decline. It's since the MVP season. That MVP season was ridiculous, but he's not going to get better. He's only going to get worse, and he's not bad. He might not even be a bad quarterback ever from when he's playing, really. But it's just they're not going to win with this team. They're not going to win in the Matt Ryan era unless they magically come up with a defense and a great coach now. Another thing I've been talking about recently is the game has changed. We all know that. The game has changed, but the quarterback play has changed. I think the strict pocket passing quarterback, even if they have a laser beam arm, even if they're accurate, they're smart, is kind of dying. It's almost dead at this point. I think quarterbacks need to be able to move. They need to be able to move. And I'm not really talking about downfield, making people. That's a bonus, and that's great. And those quarterbacks are having success. But I think just move around, pressure, get outside the pocket, and just make the play go faster because of your feet, because of that. So I do think the Matt Ryan type quarterback, who is accurate, who is still I consider good, is kind of dying. But the main reason being, I think this is actually true and actually overlooked, is they're not going to win anything anytime soon, and you might as well tear it down and go again. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt real bad because they were that close. But I think that's accurate. I think that's pretty much what they have to do. So that is a fantastic one sent in by Danny there. From Jackson Rosenthal. This one for the Bears. Nick Foles is the answer at quarterback for the Bears and is their franchise QB. So this is actually, it's a good one. It's another hot topic right now, fresh off week 3. This is what I like to see for these types of videos. What's fresh right now? What's everyone talking about? It's kind of a two-parter, though. I got different answers here. Nick Foles is the answer for quarterback for the Bears, at quarterback for the Bears. So we'll answer that first. And I'm actually going to go back for this year, we'll call it. Nick Foles is the answer at quarterback right now for the Bears. Well, they really have no other options besides what's on the roster. And I'm going to go back to what I just said with the last one. I'm going to say that's overlooked. I think people are out there saying, and it's not just Bears. I think there's some Bears fans that may just like Trubisky, and they may say there's not much of a difference. They probably think they're a good team either way. That's okay. But I'd say Nick Foles is definitely better. But there's also people out there like, are the Bears still, are they really that much different? I think they are. I think I talked about in the offseason. I think Foles is the perfect guy for Nagy's system, Nagy's playbook. They kind of had to tighten the playbook a bit because of the limitations to Trubisky's game. I think he wanted to run more RPO. Trubisky really couldn't do it because you have to read the outside linebacker at the end. You have to read them to be able to make a decision if you're giving the ball to the. I'm not going to go into RPO right now, but give the ball to the running back or run or take off or throw the slant with a quick slant, whatever it may be. Trubisky couldn't do it. Nick Foles proved he can do it. He's pretty darn good at it. Another thing, Trubisky can't really throw downfield. He's hesitant to do so, and he's just not very good at it. He's very inaccurate at it. Nick Foles playing a half of football already has multiple more throws over, I think it was 28 yards was the sweet spot there. Over 28 yards. Trubisky had one of those. And a half of football, Foles has multiple more. So that... It's not surprising. So I do, and the Bears, I think, they're 3-0. The defense hasn't actually played as good as I thought they would, but I'm still confident about it. They got the playmakers on defense. They got the pass rush. So the defense is good. Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, playmakers, and the offensive line's playing better than expected. So I think you put all of that together. Nick Foles, to me, is the answer, and is the answer for quarterback for this year for the Bears. And I think where people will kind of get this wrong, let's say the Bears struggle, they don't play well, which is possible. Nick Foles maybe struggles, and they may say, well, this ended up being wrong. I would still disagree because, I mean, who are they going to go pluck out of? They weren't going to get some quarterback in free agency that's better. They weren't going to go trade for some guy. And there's just no question that Foles is better than Trubisky. There's no doubt in my mind. So I would say that's actually overlooked. I think the Bears might be a better team than people think when Nick Foles is in there. And is their franchise quarterback. So I think franchise quarterback. I think long term, and I'm gonna say that's an overreaction. I like Foles. I like Foles for the system. He's not the long term answer. He might be around for a bit more, and he's not gonna be bad or anything. Another guy that's not getting better though. He's gonna start to decline at some point, and I don't think he's not the answer for the long term. I think they're gonna. And I think they know that. I think Trubisky, they declined that option. Now he's benched. They're probably not going to bring him back next year unless he plays for real cheap to be the backup for Foles. But they're going to be on the lookout for a quarterback. That doesn't mean they're drafting a quarterback. They're going to do their homework, and they're going to be on the lookout. They're going to see if they have an opportunity to grab one. So I think Foles is the guy right now. I think he can win games right now for the Bears for sure. Franchise quarterback, I'd say no, but I guess it depends on how many years we're talking. I think you can start for them for a couple years and make some noise there. So, it's another great one. And Jackson's on fire as well, ladies and gentlemen. This one for the Saints. Drew Brees is no longer a top 10 quarterback in the NFL and is holding back the Saints. So another two-part. This is good because this is a lot of people are talking about this right now. The Saints are 1-2. That brings up most of it. But you see Brees against the Raiders. He was not right against the Raiders. I think the talk mainly is he's not throwing downfield. Well, he hasn't really been throwing downfield the last several years, but he's doing less of it at this early stage of the year. But, that was really the only problem with the Packers game is it almost felt like because he saw guys downfield, it almost felt like he just didn't want to, and he had the lack of throwing downfield. But the Raiders game, he looked kind of awkward. The ball wasn't coming out right, so I was more concerned with that, just at that time. So that's really the concern. So the question of Drew Brees is no longer a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. That's okay. Let's fast forward here. Is Drew Brees holding back the Saints? I think that's definitely an overreaction. I don't think he's holding them back. It's the same system that the Saints have always ran. It's the same system that's always had. I mean, you look at not really Super Bowls, but you look at consistent winning teams. Is there anybody better than the Saints, the Patriots, teams like that? So it's. I don't think maybe Brees is as good as he was the last couple of years, but I just don't think he's holding them back. I think the defense is a bigger problem right now. I think there's only a couple guys that are being relied on the defense. I would say not taking shots downfield and relying too much on the short game. I could actually say that's kind of a problem right now. If offensively, it is kind of a problem, but is it the problem? Is Drew Brees the problem? No, he's not. That's an overreaction. But he can be better, and I want him to be better, and I want him to go downfield a little more. I want him to trust himself a little more. But that's still an overreaction, but it's a good one. Drew Brees is no longer a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. This one's definitely debatable. I'm actually going to say fair. That doesn't mean I 100% agree with it. I think you definitely can debate it, and he's not playing like a top 10 quarterback, and I do think he's declined. But what goes into when people make the top 10, when you in your head or if you put them out there, like when you're ranking quarterbacks, I think how they're playing is obviously a big part. Are they winning and how they're playing? But I think people like to put quarterbacks on other teams. Like how would all the quarterbacks be on one team? And I think if Drew Brees, and that's the case where he's outside the top 10. I think if he had pressure, I think if he's on a team like one of the teams with the poor offensive lines, I think he would really, really struggle, honestly, at this point of his career. But that's really not how it works. So that's why that's why it's debatable. Do you rank quarterbacks like that? Do you just rank how they are? They're either way, he's not playing like a top 10 quarterback right now. By the end of the year, he probably will be in the range of that, maybe just inside. We could all predict, but that's an interesting one. It's definitely. I do think he needs to play better, but he's definitely not the problem for the Saints. From Bob, another Saints one, and replace 8-8 with average because I don't think he's predicting here. Some people send in ones where they're predicting this very specific record at the end of the year, and I just kind of want to focus. I don't want to get too specific. I kind of want to focus on what's going on right now. But the Saints are an average team. It's another good topic too because the Saints are surprisingly 1-2. Had some disappointing losses. Raiders, Packers, they lost back to back. and it's just been disappointing. So it's kind of like it's definitely what's being talked about a lot. Saints are an average team, we'll call this. And I'm gonna say that's an overreaction. It's a good one though, because you probably no. When you look at it like 8-8, it's definitely an overreaction. But calling them an average team, I'm still calling it an overreaction because they played some good teams, they played some bad matchups. Even though we all know when it's all said and done, the Saints probably could end up better than the Raiders, so they're probably the better team. Head to head, are they better team? That's a different debate. I mean, the Raiders just beat them, but so maybe it's just a bad matchup. And the Saints they'll get things going. They'll get better. They're definitely better than average team. But why I say it might be debatable is that teams are really finally, starting to figure out the Saints, because it's been the system for so long. I think they're going to see more matchup problems. They're going to see more press man coverage, and that's what could affect them. In that small ball. But they'll get Michael Thomas. They've been missing Michael Thomas. They'll get Michael Thomas back, and Breeze will. Maybe he's not putting it all out there. Early season, maybe he's got more in him, so they're definitely going to be better than an average team, even though they're 1-2. That's below average right now, but I'm really not worried, for them there. But yeah, they're definitely better than an average team. So I say it's an overreaction. From Peter, Washington football team one here. Dwayne Haskins isn't and won't be a franchise quarterback for Washington. This is a good one. This is definitely a hard one to decide here. And I talked about it. I talked about quarterbacks really don't change. They can slightly improve with more reps, and Dwayne Haskins definitely needs more reps. But I look at the traits of Dwayne Haskins, and I'm like, he's not going to be a great quarterback, but I think the traits are there. I think he's kind of got to put it together. They definitely need more talent around him. The turnovers are a little concerning. I'm a little surprised by the amount of turnovers, based on where he was at Ohio State and now. And usually guys that have like the turnover problems, they kind of keep that, and that's where people, find busts. And that's why it's confusing on why teams drafted that player. Like, you had the turnover problem. It's really not going to go away. Haskins didn't really have it. So this is a case where I'm not saying it's going to just go away, but this is more likely to start to fade away a little bit more than some of the other guys. Guys like Sam Darnold, who did have the turnover problem, in crucial moments, just one of many examples in college. So, I think a lot more reps. You can definitely argue this. You already could probably write him off. You probably can find a better quarterback. I'm going to call it an overreaction because he needs more reps. And I think the traits are kind of there. It's just about improving them, which you can. You can't make traits appear. You can't improve a quarterback by an insane amount, but you can improve the traits that are there. So I do think he needs more time, to be fair. But again, you could argue that, it's maybe he's just not good. Maybe he's just Ohio State system. Maybe. But then another debate, totally different debate. I just don't want anybody to take me the wrong way. If you're picking, we're talking about Ohio State, Justin Fields, but if you're picking one, you take. I still think you take Trevor Lawrence. It's not really no knock on Haskins. It's just really it's Trevor Lawrence. You definitely get better. You got a rare type of quarterback. Justin Fields would be another debate. Ohio State quarterback versus another Ohio State quarterback. I would think maybe they would actually pass. Maybe they would try to build the O-line. Maybe a Jamar Chase. I got a mock draft coming tomorrow, which is Tuesday the 29th. So we'll see what I have them taking. A way too early mock draft, but all sorts of fun there ever since college football started picking up again. SEC football, but. Yeah, I'm going to say it's an overreaction. I don't remember if I had it pop up, so there you go. I probably did already. Next from Birdie, about the Texans here. O'Brien finally fired if the Texans lose to the Vikings. So a little bit of a prediction. I don't really like the future predictions. This is this week, though, coming up. But basically what there's, O'Brien and the Texans, Bill O'Brien and the Texans have been that disappointing where he kind of needs to be fired now, or this week if they lose again. Is that an overreaction or not? And I'm not a big Bill O'Brien guy. I do think he gets his team ready. I think the game plan's not always great. I think for the most part it's not great, but the actual game plan always. But I don't really have a problem with it. I think play calls or decision makings within the game is a problem. See, the Bills game in the playoffs is one of many that stands out. Even though they won the game, but it's disappointing. A good team that has a guy like Deshaun Watson, should they be better. It's unacceptable for them to be that bad. Yeah, that could be the case. So does he need to be fired? I think, and I'm actually going to, right off the bat, now the more I'm talking about it, I'm going to say it's an overreaction for many reasons here. I'm not really against letting him go because I don't think he's the greatest coach. I'm not really against it, and they probably should. I mean, look at who they played, though, at the same time. But the team's really not going to look at it. Like, they want to win every week. They go out there to win every week. But that's just something. But and why there's multiple reasons I think it's an overreaction. I think people look at what he's done in the front office, and rather than the coaching. Yeah, there's more mistakes in the front as a GM because he plays kind of roles for both head coach and GM, which that's another topic. I just disagree. I don't think it should be the same guy. It works out for Bill Belichick, and that guy's just the one of a kind. So, but I don't agree with it because how do you fire? Usually the owners hire the front office. The front office usually controls not just the players but the coaches as well. So he's controlling himself for the most part. So it's really on the ownership. So that's why that's a different topic. But I don't agree with that, especially a guy that's been kind of unproven in those categories. But why is it an overreaction that he gets fired? Is because, losing the Vikings will be unacceptable. But yeah, because he's got too much control. They believe in him too much. He's controlling the front office and the coaching, job. So I think that there's too much belief in him, and he's still starting to retool, here and there, fix the roster, build it up a little bit. Even though they did trade a first-round pick, so how is he going to do that? But I think it's a long shot. So that's why I'm calling it overreaction. I think it's a team that I kind of predicted to get going later in the year rather than early, so they probably believe the same thing. I just don't think it happens, and for the sole reason that he's kind of in control more than most coaches, I think means it's an overreaction. But if you want to debate he should be, maybe that's probably a different debate here, so that's definitely an interesting one. Next, from Bobby Buff, the Vikings are tanking. Well, Bobby, I wish this was the case as a Vikings fan. Maybe it'd be a little less embarrassing if they were doing this on purpose, but they're definitely trying to win. No doubt they're trying to win. So they are not tanking. Maybe you mean will they start tanking? They're never. I don't think there's any team that is going to go out there and tank. I think the tanking is done kind of in the off season. With how they put together their team. That's if there is tanking. I think that's where it begins. Maybe because they're holding guys out, and there's no tanking there. They're trying to win every single week. They have the talent. They think they have the talent. They're trying to win. So I wish that was accurate. Especially because it's makes more sense. But maybe you have a chance to get a guy like Trevor Lawrence or Penny Sewell. But I don't think that's the case here. But next we got another Dolphins one. Like this one a lot. This is where we're going to end the video from Leatherhead. Fitzpatrick was molded by the gods, and we are unworthy. Right off the bat, this is overlooked. This guy was molded by the gods. And Fitzpatrick, is he? This is just a funny one, but is he he's not a great quarterback, obviously. But you look at how many teams he's been on and how he keeps going, and I wish he was for once on a really good team so we can accurately judge how good he is. Put him on a pretty good roster, see if he's better than one of these quarterbacks that's known to be better than him. I'm a big fan of Fitzpatrick because he's a really tough dude. He's always having a blast. He's not afraid to run anybody over. Just looking at the guy, you think, maybe he's just a pocket passing guy, but no, he'll run. He'll try to run you over. He's out there to win. He's got the winning mentality. He just hasn't really been on the great teams, but he's definitely a cool dude, a good guy, and that's why that's kind of overlooked. I think people just kind of base it off of here's his win-loss record. So that's I'll say that's overlooked, but kind of a funny one there. But yeah, that looks like it wraps up this week's video. I really enjoyed it. We've been doing this since the year started. This is probably my favorite one yet. This is a really good one here. Here just after week 3, but we still got Monday night to go. And you got to follow that Twitter because we'll be talking during that Chiefs-Ravens game, during the whole thing there. We'll give you my takeaways once it's over or throughout it, my thoughts. But, plenty other pages you guys can go to. Links down below, description, comments. But it looks like it's going to do it for this one. Please smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Be much appreciated. Trying to reach 60K. We got power rankings every Tuesday, so that's tomorrow. Can't wait for those. We got weekly picks every Tuesday night. I do score predictions Wednesday. We got you covered here. We got you covered fully throughout the whole NFL season, so hopefully you can join us for all that. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.